So we're looking at the ATN X-Sight LTV. I bought the 5 through 15, but had it about 2 months now. I also bought the Thor, which is a night scope, thermal. That's really cool. We'll do a different video on that. But I have this sitting on the Avenge X. We're going to talk about it. Looks like a lot of the videos that I've watched before I even bought it were, you know, the good. Well, you know, what's the not so good about it? We're going to talk about both today. So I have it sitting on my air rifle here, my Avenge X. A little history on, you know, why I have the Avenge X, and I also have an Impact M3 with the thermal on it right now. Because I got a lot of woods behind my house. Last year we got chickens. So I have a big chicken coop in the back. We're loaded with squirrels and raccoons. The squirrels, I was doing my varmint hunting with a Ruger 1022, but even with the short shots that you have to single load, you know, one at a time, they're pretty loud, right? So I wanted something quieter. A friend of mine told me about this Avenge X. I looked into it, then I got addicted. Then I got the Impact M3. Then I started doing night scopes, and I got a nice element scope for daytime. But I was really impressed with the clarity of this X-Sight LTV 5 through 15. You might be watching this because you're on Amazon looking and wondering what it's about and looking for YouTube videos. I did the same thing, and everything is, you know, cheerleading around it, but there are some negatives to it. The positives, it's compact. It looks really good. This here is off my thermal. I just tossed it on there. But that's the thermal comes with this, the X-Sight doesn't. The X-Sight comes with, you know, a cover that goes over the whole thing. I actually found this light. There are a whole bunch of reviews on there about the light. And this lights up my whole backyard. It does really good. I'm only shooting about 35 to 50 yards back into the woods where it's clear back there. So the max is probably about 50 yards before we get to the lake. But that shines up everything really nice, to the point where on the X-Sight you have this to increase your brightness. I think 3 different levels. And if you go max here in my yard and max on there, it's a little too bright. So you find your sweet spot of what works for you. When it comes to day mode, this will shoot a perfectly clear picture, and I'm going to put a couple clips on the screen as we're talking here with a day mode video and a night mode video. But this will shoot even as it's getting darker outside. So as it's getting darker outside, you'll look through your scope and be like, wow, it looks like day. It still looks like this. It still looks like daytime. And then there is a cutoff. I don't know how it tells. There's a sensor, but all of a sudden that nice clear picture just goes boom to a gray, like a grayish screen, and you know you got to switch over to night mode. But it's pretty impressive on how, even when it's, you know, cloudy, don't worry about it. It's perfect. As it starts getting darker, still really clear picture. I haven't had any issues with it. I've got a lot of time in it. Night mode, like I said, works really good. Couple of the drawbacks, which, I mean, we're 2024. The Thor and this X-Sight, you cannot just plug in with the USB-C that's provided. Nobody mentions this, but you cannot just plug this in to your computer and pull the videos off. Each time you want to get videos off, you have to take out your little SD card. I thought that was really strange. I tried plugging it in. I tried the other wire that came with the Thor. Nothing. You have to take your little SD card out every time, which is pretty tedious. And that thing is small, so you drop it or you could lose it. So every time you got to do that. When it comes to focusing, this is very small adjustments because it's a digital scope. It's like looking through a digital camera. Very small adjustments to focus, so you can easily go too far in either direction. So you find your sweet spot for your range. But there are no, like on regular scopes, there's an adjustment of yards on top to adjust. Nothing like that on here. The dioptic adjustment works really good. Style reticles and different color reticles, I really like that. You can adjust them very easy by going into the menu. And the one-shot zero does work. It took me, I'd say it took me about 10 shots, just because on my first one I was at about 30 yards and it wasn't even on the target. So I had to go in a little closer. But once I was on the target, it's very easy to get a one-shot zero. That works flawlessly. 2 months I've had it, it has never lost zero. There were some reviews I read too that it loses zero. Not this one and not my Thor either. Both both held 0 perfectly. And I also wrote down the numbers inside. So when you're adjusting on the screen, you can see your numbers of where you're moving. I think it's like an XY graphic. And it'll give you numbers of where your 0 is. So if you ever needed to reboot it or reset it and you lost those, you keep them and you'll be good to get back to 0. When you first get your X-Sight, your Thor, any ATN product that's a digital scope, the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to put the SD card in, and it's going to ask you to format it. Now, when I first got this one, I put my SD card in the computer and I went on the ATN website to search for an update, and there was an update, and I put it on. But then when I put it in here for the first time, it wanted me to format it. So the correct way to do it is to put the SD card in here, let it format it, take the SD card out, go on the ATN website and search for the update. If there is one, you drag it right into the SD card. You don't have to go into the ATN folder, because the ATN folder is going to be automatically generated when you format the SD card when it's in the site. Then you just drop it in underneath the ATN folder, and when you put it in, the first thing that it's going to ask you to do is to update it, because it's going to see that file. I bought quick connects for these, UTG off Amazon, just because I want to swap back from here to my thermal. I want to use my Avenge X for night hunting, so this and the thermal, and use my impact for the day. The reason I went with the X-Sight is it was about $580, and this rifle is only $800. So I didn't see going to spend, over the price of the rifle on my scope for this one. My impact's got a nice element scope. It's an expensive one. And so I'm in this hobby now. I really like it. It's easy to varmint hunt back here. And I'm going to be sticking with the air guns. I really like this Avenge X with the X-Sight on it. This X-Sight, in the manual here, there's a couple things that it mentions. It talks about the on-off button. When you turn it off, when you turn it on, 3 to 5 seconds. My Thor is 3 to 5 seconds for my thermal. The X-Sight, to turn it on, and you'll hear a little click after you hold the button down for about 5 seconds. It takes a full 10 to fully boot up. So there is a sleep mode, which I leave this on. I have it on a 10-minute turn off. That's another thing. The sleep mode is finicky in both this and my Thor. It's supposed to sense movement and then turn back on. It doesn't do that all the time. I tried, touch a button to get it to come back on, wiggle it. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. I wasn't sure if it was just the X-Sight, which I had first, but it also does it with the Thor. So if you think something's wrong with yours, if it's doing that, mine does it as well. And all the buttons have a nice tactile feel to them. So you have your camera mode here, you hold that down, it'll switch to video. Crystal clear image in here when you're looking through it. The thing also is when you're looking through, it's very clear, but the video you get out of it is 720p. And on Amazon, it doesn't say it's 720p 30, but you actually see that in the manual. So slow-mo is not going to be too good with this. If you're getting this to varmint hunt and you want to capture the video, it's not going to be too good. Slowing down from 30p is tough. Now they do have, ATN does have scopes that record 1080, I think 120, which you can get away with cutting 120 in half down to 60 or even down to 30. It'll still look good, but I've slowed down some of these shots of me varmint hunting. It gets grainy quick. What I can say about this though, with the zoom through the lens, even a max zoom of 15, it looks beautiful. Very, very crystal clear image. And like I said, I was surprised on how it'll still look like this at dusk. You switch over to night mode. You can get away if you're shooting short distance without the light. When you stop pushing out after, I don't know, I can go max here and do 30 yards, which is behind my garage where I'm killing raccoons and stuff. But after that, once you start getting 25, 30 yards, you want to put this light on. Now I put it on my Picatinny rail down the bottom, and just don't forget to shut it off, because it does take these CR 123 batteries or something, and it comes with 2 of them that you load in there. but there's no auto on off, and it's not rechargeable light. But there were complaints about this light, but I haven't had any concerns with it at all. Works really good. Lights up the whole yard. So yeah, it's a nice scope. Couple things, I would love to be able to plug it in and get the files to my computer, because you're not getting Wi-Fi with this one. The Wi-Fi does come on other ATN models, but this is specified as their bare bone day-night scope. And it does a great job being a bare bone nighttime scope, but you're missing some of those cool features in the more expensive of the being able to shoot it over to your phone. I like that it doesn't have any dials on it, and the picture is crystal clear. So like I said, two drawbacks for me are the card, obviously, and you're only getting 720p. This scope's only been out for a couple years, and we're stuck at 720p 30. You get a good picture, but when you try and slow it down, it's gonna suffer. So everyone, there's a look at the ATN X-Sight LTV 5 through 15. Put a couple still pictures up too of it at day mode and night mode. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.